So I'm seeing this kabur aja dulu movement as a wake-up call for the government, actually, that this is a sign, serious sign from the young people, Indonesian youth, about the situation.
But are they waking up though?
I don't know. Let's make sure that they wake up.
Hello, Weeboos. Welcome back to another episode of the WIUI podcast. And as you see today, unfortunately, Andovi cannot be joining us right now because he has other stuff he's doing. So if you can comment, Andovi, where are you? Take this podcast seriously, right? But it's okay. It's okay. Because today we have a good friend of mine, actually. Can I say that?
Sure.
And somebody that I really respect in politics and in academia sector in Indonesia, Mas Yanuar Nugroho.
Thank you, Abby.
Welcome to the WIUI podcast, Mas.
Thank you.
We've been planning this podcast for a while, right?
Yep, we do. Unfortunately, I'm really sorry. There are some appointments and other commitments. Sorry.
Mas Yanuar is very busy.
No, not really.
So very understandable. So we're just gonna have a casual conversation, Mas Yan. And I think to start off, I want to give you the opportunity to introduce yourself because I cannot remember. But Mas Yan has so many titles and roles and experiences that I can't be the one to introduce. So,
okay, maybe rather than formal introduction, Abby, maybe I just let's make it like a bit of story, right?
Yeah.
I finished my undergraduate in ITB, Bandung, in 1994, and then after that, I tried to work as a professional in Indonesia, but then social movement captured my attention more. So I used to be a social activist.
Okay.
Until 1998, Suharto, the fall down of Suharto.
You were there in the streets.
I was there in the street with my friends. I remembered since I think July 1996, it was the takeover of PDIP office in Diponegoro.
Yes.
Bloody, I just very vividly I remember the situation at that time. Very violent. Then 1998, we got rid of Pak Harto. In 2000, I got scholarship from British government, Chevening.
Okay.
So I went to the UK. So I did my master's in the UK. Then somehow I completed my study and I got another scholarship to continue my PhD. But I needed to go back home because the commitment in Chevening is that after you completed your study, you need to go back. Yes, to go back to Indonesia. So I returned back to Indonesia, but already with letter of acceptance to be a PhD student. So I was in Indonesia, working again in NGO sector, 2001, 2002, and then 2004, I started my PhD in the UK.
Got it.
At the time, there was no LPDP, there was no government scholarship, so I had to apply for not only one, but many scholarships in order to be able to cover all my tuition fee and my living allowances.
Yep.
So I got scholarship from the university itself, and then I received the scholarship from the late Pope John Paul II from Vatican.
Oh wow! Okay.
At the time, there was the scheme of Pope John Paul II 100 scholarship. So across the world, only 100 person, and I was so lucky. I was the last recipient from Indonesia because after that the Pope passed away.
Okay.
So I got that a bit, and then I also got the scholarship from Switzerland. I got scholarship from Germany, small, few. If only there was LPDP at that time, it would have been much.
So you gathered like all those scholarship to fund your PhD.
I don't know the word in English, but in Indonesian, in bahasa Indonesia, like ketengan, you know. So you have to collect bit by bit.
Bit by bit, yeah.
On top of that, I had to work.
Right.
As greeter and fareweller, security basically in one of the biggest shop in the UK. It's called B&Q.
Okay.
In the UK. So I completed my PhD. Then I got an offer from the university to stay there as research assistant and then research associate And then senior researcher, time flew until 2012. I lived in the UK. I got all my kids were born there. So in total, until 2012, I was in the UK. Then, Presiden Bambang Yudhoyono, through Pak Kuntoro Mangkusubroto, called me home.
Right.
So I left everything in the UK.
Wow.
My career, everything. I was on my way to be a professor in innovation and development at that time.
What was your concentration there, the PhD?
Yeah, in the UK, and this is what I learned quite interestingly, is that the so-called linearity didn't work there, and I believe don't work there. Doesn't work. So my first degree is industrial engineer. Okay, industrial engineering. My MSc is in information systems engineering.
Okay.
And then I have postgraduate diploma in philosophy of development. And then my PhD is in studies of innovation studies.
In general, just innovation.
Policy research in engineering, science, and technology.
Got it.
So, in that part. My postdoctoral is on sustainability, knowledge dynamics, and foresight. That's my postdoc.
Right.
I was well on my way.
And then your country called you home.
Yes. And one, if I may say, one of my ideas that I have to peacefully let go is to be a professor in Indonesia. Because here you have to be linear. You take mechanical engineer with your first degree, and then master's also in mechanical engineer, and then PhD in mechanical engineer, then you can become a professor.
A professor in mechanical engineer.
Someone like me, industrial engineer, moving to information systems, having philosophy, innovation, public policy. But that's okay. That's okay.
Okay.
I got what I wanted. Then I realized that I was working with the government during Pak Bambang Yudhoyono.
So you were working as what during that time?
At the time, I was appointed to be one of the directors in the so-called President's Delivery Unit for Development Monitoring and Oversight. In Bahasa Indonesia, UKP 4, Unit Kerja Presiden Bidang Pengawasan dan Pengendalian Pembangunan.
So you were in the presidential office,
yes.
right? KSP.
Now it is called KSP. Back then it was called UKP 4.
Okay, got it. Now it's KSP.
Okay, so President Delivery Unit was there, and then when Pak Jokowi was elected and inaugurated as a president, he changed this UKP 4 into KSP, Kantor Staf Presiden, or Executive Office of the President, in which I was appointed to be deputy for social, cultural, and ecological affairs. I was responsible for development priority of Pak Jokowi. So I was there until the end of the first period, and then the second period, I still helped Pak Jokowi in the office of the president until December 2019, and then January 2020, I decided to resign. I returned to academia. I joined Yusof Ishak Institute, ISIS, in Singapore. But then COVID hit Indonesia. Remember? March 2020. In July, Pak Erlangga Hartarto was appointed by Pak Jokowi to lead the so-called KPCPEN, basically COVID Recovery and Economic Response Committee.
Okay.
End of September, I was asked to lead the monitoring evaluation team to evaluate for COVID response.
COVID response. Yeah. Oh.
So again, back to the government.
I did not know this. Okay. Yeah.
It's okay. No, not everything needs to be told. Right?
All right. Okay.
So I did the job until the end of COVID, 2021, and then I tried to return to Singapore.
Okay.
Joining Lee Kuan Yew School of Public Policy. So I joined them as visiting senior fellow in public services in LKY. But it only lasted for 6 weeks because then I got another call from the government to lead the so-called National Secretariat for SDGs implementation in the Ministry of National Development Planning. So I was asked to be the so-called expert in Bappenas.
Yeah, okay.
And I just completed my term last year, December 2024. So now I'm free.
You're free. Okay.
I'm free.
For now.
Of course, I'm still teaching in the university.
Okay.
I'm part of Diyarkara School of Philosophy in Jakarta, I'm responsible for master's graduate and PhD, and sometimes with undergrad. But I'm teaching contemporary philosophy, especially philosophy in technology, philosophy in development. In Indonesia, that's my home. So I have 2 homes now, one in Indonesia, one in Singapore.
Right.
Sometimes I'm still advising here and there.
Yeah. Okay, so you see why I can't do the introduction? There's just no way. But this is what I find very interesting, because I think you're very close to both the academia, both in Indonesia and in the international world, and you're also very familiar with the government work, because you were in the government, right? But now you're not. Now.
Yeah. Still working with the government, but not from within.
Right, yeah.
Advising them for here and there.
Yes, so the government and academia, those two are not something that usually, lately at least, not something that
go
together or is friendly with one another.
Okay.
What do you think of like this whole, like the recent news, what, like, I would say there's a lot of government officials who do not take academia seriously.
I see.
And or policy that are being implemented or created without proper academic research.
Okay.
So these two things, right? You were in these two things. Like, what do you think about all this in Indonesia?
I think your observation is correct. Back in 1998, I have many friends at that time. We were rallying against Suharto, right?
Yeah.
One of my friends, he became member of the parliament.
Okay.
When I returned home in 2012, and then I met him sometimes 2014, 2015 as deputy chief of staff, my friend was still in the House of the Parliament, right? And then we had this conversation, quite absurd, but I remember this vividly. He asked me, Yanuar, you were a student activist. You used to rally, demonstration on the street. You're outside the government. Now you are inside the government. You're even policymakers.
Yeah.
How does it feel? And then I told him, in my reflection, what frustrates me more is not moving from an activist into policymaker, but from an academia, as an academics, into policymaker. Because exactly what you said. Things that we shouldn't do, we know this academically with all evidences, and the government chooses to do it.
Why?
Exactly. Because I think, and the other way around, of course.
Yeah.
Because now it is not only theoretically, but I realize that we cannot just talk about policy in vacuum. We need, whenever we talk about policy, we need to understand as well the politics and polity. Policy is about substance.
Yep.
Content.
The content.
Okay? Politics is the process through which that policy is decided upon. If you only focus on policy, you do not understand the politics, then you will be left blank about the process.
Yeah.
And the polity, meaning the culture, the political culture. It is deeply rooted in our political culture.
Yep.
So, in Latin, there is this wording, non sequitur. Non sequitur in English means not following. We assume, we take for granted that evidence will contribute positively to good policy, right?
Yeah, it will inform it, right?
Or at least inform. That's what we think. That's what we assume. No. That assumption cannot be held true all times. No. We need to know the politics. We need to know the polity. This is where I think I came into my own conclusion that in Indonesia, we cannot talk about policy without talking about politics behind it and the political culture that shape that policy. And I hope, to me personally, it gives me more nuanced understanding, right?
Right. Yeah.
Of what's going on. So that sometimes I see that people are a bit simplistic. By people, I don't mean everyone, right? But I see commentators, I see analysts even sometimes take things rather simplistic, in a simplistic way.
Yeah, yeah.
When you're academic, you said, we have this evidence. This evidence is very, very, convincing. The policy should follow this. No.
Not necessarily.
Not necessarily.
Yeah.
Because research remains in the domain of, I would say, intellectual domain, while policy resides in the political domain. So.
Yeah. And I mean, I don't think it's a secret that policy and
politics
and all that, of course it doesn't exist in a vacuum, and of course it's not as straightforward as like, this is the research, therefore we need to do this. But sometimes it's not even that, right? But there's a lot of conflict of interest, and maybe firstly the conflict of interest where like the goal itself is contradictory to, for example, like the goal itself is contradictory to what, for example, the people want or what's best for the nation, and therefore because the goal itself is already different, then of course the policy and the politics become very different than what a lot of people are expecting. And then secondly, of course, there's negotiation about like what's popular and what's not, because sometimes maybe like if it's evidence and research based, like the best policy is not popular, but sometimes what's popular is not the best academically, right?
Yep.
So how do you balance? Is it even possible to balance that, right? Because it's it's so complicated.
Okay. This is my take, Abi.
Yeah.
One, we need to keep remembering that policy is anything the government chooses to do or not to do.
Yeah.
Not only what government chooses to do, but also what government chooses not to do. That's one. Second, therefore, when we talk about policy, it is always contested. If I take it in a neutral tone, the resources of the government is limited.
Yeah.
That's why they have priorities, right? That's why there is no policy that can satisfy everyone.
Of course,
Impossible, right?
Yeah.
So the government operates within these constraints, right? I take it in a neutral way. And when it comes into what is important, then that's when the notion of neutrality doesn't apply. Because what is important for you,
it's different.
maybe not, right?
Yep.
That's why policy is always contested. Now, if then you take politics into it, then that's the explanation. Because, when the policymakers or the policymaker comes from a certain political camp with different thinking, different ideology, even different interest, you mentioned about conflict of interest, even, then policymaking processes is becoming or will become more complicated is understatement. Complex. I keep using the word policymaking process is an arena for power contestation. That's why, again, if we take one step back, trying to not reconcile, but trying to bring these two worlds closer, academia and policymakers, there are two things that need to be done. One, the academia needs to be able, or the academic works, researchers, lecturers, they need to be able to speak in the language of policymakers. You cannot come to them, you take with you research reports of 500 pages or 1,000, they will not read it.
Yeah. So how do you speak politics?
Exactly. Through policy brief, through courtesy call, you ask to meet in private to discuss. I mean, in private, it's not in a public event. Let me tell you one way to make you directly rejected by the policymakers.
Okay.
This is why. This is
what not to do, basically.
What not to do.
Yeah.
Organize a seminar.
Okay.
And then you showcase your research and you tell the government how wrong they are. That's the way of not being listened
because
to.
Firstly, you're antagonizing them and nobody likes to be wrong. And then second, you embarrass them. Okay.
So that's one side. On the other hand, you need to keep empowering policymakers. I'm talking about the early career, middle career. That's why in LPDP now I'm sitting as one of the committee members of LPDP Endowment Fund for Education in Indonesia. That's why we now encourage, and even we have the affirmative programs to send policymakers, civil service, police, army to take their graduate studies.
Really?
Yes.
Okay.
We have that program. You know, Abby, I'm not saying that all policymakers needs to have PhD like me. No, I'm not saying that. But you know the difference. When policymakers are exposed into academic tradition, they are used to debate based on data. They are used to read. They are exposed to this academic practice. The way they debate will be different. The way they think will be different. I know this is a long-term goal, but this is what I believe. So that when they debate with the member of parliament, their argument can be much better than just talking about, this is my constituent, this is my party, this is the ideology. No, they can use data. I still have hope that we can be better.
That's one of the way, the long-term investment.
And us basically asking them to really think what they do.
I think what you mentioned is very, very interesting because I think on the one hand, right, usually on the one hand, I feel like academician and then even the regular people or activists, you were once in the social activists, like a lot of people right now are very angry and they feel like we're paying your taxes. Why should we be the one who are working hard, thinking hard, trying to give you solutions, right?
Yeah.
Shouldn't you be the one like thinking and shouldn't you be the one like coming up with solution? Instead, why are you're the one who keep messing up. We're the one who needs to keep coming up with solution. On the one hand, there's that definitely. But on the other hand, I do understand what you're saying that antagonizing them, embarrassing them is no way effective. There's no way it's not an effective way of communication. So if we want to achieve the goal of, for example, making the policy more sound, better research and all those stuff, we need to work together with them, right? But there's that tension of like, no, like it's my right as a citizen to criticize you. It's freedom of speech. But at the same time, is it effective or not? That's the question also, right?
Okay. I want to make myself clear here. As citizens, it is our right to criticize the government. Even that's our job. So never submit to the idea or to the instruction that tells you that you can criticize, but you have to provide the solution. No, don't take that. Don't take that.
Because those two are two different things.
Okay. As a citizens, this is our rights to criticize the government.
Okay.
It's different if you are government official. This is your job to find for solution, right? And I apply this myself. When I was sworn in official in the office of the president, I was there for 7 years in total, right? Serving 2 presidents and 4 chief of staffs. Whenever I addressed my critics, I was also writing in the newspaper during that time, although not as frequent as now. But at that time, every time I criticized my own government, right? Because I was part of the administration, I had to propose solutions. If I do not write, that's even at the time I thought better because I was official. So I work on the solutions. I ask people to criticize. I ask my colleagues to criticize, and then I and my team, we were working on the solutions. But after I left my office, I left office of the president. I'm no longer sworn in official. Then it's my right
to just criticize.
Yep. I criticize through Twitter, through my social media, through my articles in the newspapers. I said that. Although I try to provide solutions, but that is not the condition, right? So, if I may, now for you, for our friends, if you want to criticize the government, just criticize. The one that I mentioned earlier about academia is the strategy. If you are an academic, if you're an academia working with the with your research and you want your research to be heard, the first strategy is not making them your enemy.
Yeah.
That's a strategy very different compared to what you have to criticize.
Yeah, so it is about like it is your right to criticize as hard as you want.
Yes.
But when it comes to you being, for example, in academia and you want, for example, your research or your idea to be accepted, it goes beyond whether it is your it goes beyond whether it's your right or not. It goes into what is effective or not, right? So I wanna zoom in on something that you said earlier.
Which one?
And that is you're currently still a part of LPDP, right?
Yes. So in LPDP, the structure is we have if you apply, your application will be dealt with by our administration staff, right?
Yeah.
And then when you pass a certain criteria, then you are invited to the interview process, right?
Right.
The one who interviews you is what we call reviewer.
Okay.
So we have hundreds of reviewers.
Right.
Above the reviewer, if I want, I don't know whether above is the right word or not, but these reviewers, we have the so-called committee of reviewer.
Right.
This committee of reviewer used to be 11 person, but 2 of them already passed away. One is Professor Bambang Setiadi, another one is Professor Asyumardri Asra. So now we are only 9. I'm one of these
You're
9,
one of the 9
member of the so-called committee of reviewers in LPDP.
Okay. Yeah. So for those of you who don't know, LPDP stands for in Indonesia, it stands for
Lembaga Pengelola Dana Pendidikan.
Lembaga Pengelola Dana Pendidikan. So it's the Indonesian Endowment Fund for Education.
Yes.
So simply put, it's basically scholarships that you
government scholarship.
Government scholarship but for masters, right?
Not postgraduate.
For postgraduate.
Masters and PhDs in Indonesia and abroad.
And abroad, yeah. Yep. So masters and PhD in Indonesia or abroad. So scholarship for from the government.
Yep.
And the condition is if you take it, you need to go back home.
To Indonesia. To N+1. Meaning if you get scholarship for 1 year, you need to come back to Indonesia, then to Indonesia, to work in Indonesia, to N+1, meaning 2 times 1 plus 1.
What does that mean?
3 years.
Oh, years, okay.
The years of working in Indonesia after you receive your scholarship, after you completed your...
got it. And then after that, you're free.
It's free. Okay.
Oh,
but
okay.
If after, for example, you complete your master's and then you're so excellent and then you got an offer for PhD, you can stay. You don't have to come back. For another example, for example, you finish your PhD and then you're so good, you got postdoctoral, you don't have to come back to Indonesia.
Really?
Yes. Or if you get...
But that's going to be... you need to reapply if you want the government to keep funding your education, right?
Of course, in that case. But if for example, you can get other scholarships, right? From the university.
But you don't have to come back immediately.
No, not immediately.
I think this is... I don't know. This is new for me.
No,
okay.
New for
but
you.
Anyway.
Yeah.
So this is a very hot
topic at the moment.
Every year. Do you know the joke?
What's the joke?
The joke is like... There's always, so in social media, the joke is in Indonesia's social media, every year there's a cycle of like things that people will definitely debate about. So for example, like Valentine is not our culture. And then things like who pays on the first date. There's always like topics that will monthly even or every year, every quarter. Yep. And one of it is LPDP.
Really?
So do you know how controversial or how hotly debated sometimes like the topic of LPDP is in?
What I heard once or a few times was about the non-returning awardees.
Right. Yeah, that's definitely like the main.
Yep. Another issues, if I remember correctly, was that LPDP is being used for what is hot now, kabur aja dulu.
Kabur aja dulu,
Yep.
yeah. But
So
before kabur, so I think kabur aja dulu relates to the first one, right? Where they like LPDP awardee do not want to come back, so they use that to kabur basically.
Oh, okay.
And then the second, I think the one that at least I saw is how a lot of people say that it's a waste of money because a lot of awardee use the money to have an overglorified trip basically. Because they like to flex, their lifestyle there and things like that.
Okay.
You do not know that.
The second one, I didn't know.
Okay.
The first one, I know. And in fact, I think I remember, no, I didn't remember the year, but a few years ago, I responded to that. And my response at the time became a bit viral.
Oh, what did you say?
Because I said at the time that the data that was published by the media was not that accurate. It said that many hundreds of LPDP awardees didn't return home. I said, wrong. That's the wrong number. And there's an official number that it is even less than 1% that did not return.
Right.
Less than 1%. And all the data are this accurate because there are, for example, if you are a male student and then your wife is pregnant, you need to wait until the baby was delivered. That's valid.
Okay.
But that's counted as non-returning. And then many other reasons. But that's not the point because I don't want to sound giving excuses. No. But my point is this, Abi. I was once in the committee reviewer or similar to that in nearly all scholarships in Indonesia. I was in chevening committee reviewer.
Okay, got it.
I was asked to help Australian scholarship. I was asked to even review in, at the time, it's called Stunet from Netherlands, scholarship, even in Aminef in the US.
Okay.
I was sitting in that similarly
that reviewer committee position, yeah.
Yep. At that time, the funny thing, why I joined LPDP was that I was deputy chief of staff. I was in a meeting with Ibu Sri Mulyani, and then about LPDP at that time, how to modernize or how to reform LPDP. And then I said, Ibu Sri Mulyani in the UK, in the US, and then Ibu Sri Mulyani asked me, Pak Yanuar, are you sitting in the committee reviewer? Yes, Bu, I sit in the nearly all scholarships committee reviewer, except LPDP. The next day I got the appointment letter from Ibu Sri Mulyani. So to be fair, LPDP was reformed.
Okay.
I would say we did lots of reform, trying to make it better and better and better. If I may, maybe this is not accurate, but chevening used to be my standard. Not because I was chevening scholars 25 years ago, but chevening was my standard. Okay, I use past tense because this is the component of scholarship that we got from chevening. I remember we got everything: travel expenses, books, cultural expenses. And then LPDP was maybe around here in terms of amount, in terms of punctuality, in terms of quality of service of the scholarship officers. When you have problems, you need to contact them. Over the year, it's getting better and better and better and better. Now, if you apply for LPDP is at the same level compared to chevening in terms of amount. Even in some cities, it's a bit higher LPDP compared to chevening, compared to Aminef, compared to AAS in Australia. We are trying our best to provide this. Why? There's a philosophy in this. You may have heard about this. In Latin, it's called non scholae sed vitae decimus, meaning not for school, but for life you study. That principle I learned the hard way when I was part of chevening.
Right.
So you give money to your awardees, not just for tuition fee and living allowance. And this, everyone does this. But they provide you for cultural, so you can get cultural experience. You buy books. This was the component from chevening scholarships, which we also do LPDP. So for the second issue that the money is being used excessively, probably for
the wrong things.
For the wrong things. One, I do not think that we, as people behind this LPDP, I do not think that we over-calculated this, that we give them much more so that you can...
Obviously, it's not the goal, right?
Not the goal.
Yeah, obviously.
But if they want to, flexing, right?
Yeah,
if they want, maybe that's unwise, and I think that's a good critics for us in LPDP, maybe to prepare them that when you go abroad, you get a scholarship, you need to spend it wisely, and not showing off here and there. I don't know, Abby, but as much as I know, this is the best we can do at the moment for our own young people. You pay taxes, right? You pay taxes.
I do.
This is part of giving back, I think.
Yeah, and so for the flexing thing, I think compared to the non-returning debate, I think the flexing is definitely like the secondary controversy that I often see. I don't know how many, and this is like from the conversation that I observe, and there's probably one or two, like I'm not sure how many.
Can I ask, when they do this flexing, what are they showing off? For example,
so
as you can remember.
I think it's because I think it's more towards like, you know how it's a trend now to make vlogs about living abroad, or and then in that daily vlogs, like sometimes they would show, for example, maybe I don't know, like going on fancy brunch or clubbing.
Really?
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know.
For example, 500,000 burger, no.
Maybe I'm not sure. Maybe I need to. You should like type in LPDP flexing on Twitter and see what comes up.
I will. To be frank. Okay.
Yeah. So there's that, and then I think, relating to that, another, and I do want to know your opinion, right? Because I think this argument do have merit. I'm not because a lot of people say that first, since isn't it better for Indonesia to import professors from abroad?
Okay.
Teach here rather than spend thousands of dollars to send one person abroad. That's the argument.
I know. Okay. On that argument, I don't know how brief I can respond to that.
Okay.
That's always the debate, maybe. That's always the debate. The question, I think the root of this question is about how we build our own academic or intellectual capacity in the country, right? Within the country. Can inviting professors abroad to Indonesia be one of the way? Of course, it can be. However, sending our own people abroad to basically to gain knowledge, to be not by research, but by research, not by intuition, but also by research. It is part of the capacity building that we need to do in order to build the so-called in-house capacity. So, yes, inviting professors can be one of the way, and we are also doing it through the so-called endowment fund for university.
Right.
I think Pak Jokowi started this in 2019, 2020. He allocated, if I'm not mistaken, I think 3 trillion rupiah to 5 trillion rupiah per year for the program, the so-called world-class university.
I see.
That money should be used for that purpose. But we have this LPDP, Endowment Fund for Education, to build the capacity, our in-house capacity, to send our own citizens, our own young people to learn abroad and then to return home. I know that sometimes not all expectations are met.
Yeah.
Not all expectations are met. Not everyone, for example, work in the academia, and even there have been also some critics that why LPDP, for example, give money for the haves. not just the poor.
Yeah,
You must have
I was
heard
about to
that.
say.
Yep.
I was about to say
Yep.
that's another thing. That's another
Yep.
issues.
I think again, it's not about comparison only. But if you check Chevening, you check Aminef, you check other prestigious scholarship scheme, who aims for excellence, then that's what happens. In the Chevening, when I got my scholarship, I witnessed my cohort. Not many, even I would say, only few who come from underprivileged families.
Right.
You got Chevening. So again, Abi, that's why we need to be clear when we design scholarship program.
Yeah.
That's why in LPDP we have the so-called affirmative scheme. So the regular scheme is indeed aimed to get the best that we have. So your GPA needs to be above 3. Your IELTS needs to be above 6.5. That's the minimum. And then we will put in the normal curve distribution to say that. That's the most competitive one, the so-called regular scheme.
Okay.
But we have the affirmative schemes, targeting poor family, targeting
Those
poor
who
people,
need it, yeah.
targeting communities outside Java, specifically Papua. So, because without this, and I think this is what other scholarships like Chevening or Aminef or others do not have explicitly, they may have, but given that they only send people like, say, per year less than 50, I think around 30 something or 40 something, while LPDP we send thousands per year. I think these schemes, and I think this is the way we try to balance this. I know the critics will remain, but we want to have our best funded by the government and they return to Indonesia. That is, to me, the more important and the bigger homework. Ensuring when they return to Indonesia, they can contribute. Ensuring when they come to Indonesia, they return to this country, they can do something for the country, right? If you're a researcher, say molecular biology, when you return to Indonesia, the question will be, where is the lab?
Exactly, and I think this relates to the first one, right?
Yep.
Where a lot of LPDP awardee does not want to come back because some of them said that, like even if I go back, like I can't contribute. So there's a story. One of my friend received LPDP, and apparently in one of so they have kind of like an orientation before they leave. So kind of like briefing, things like that. And apparently one of the LPDP, whoever representing LPDP said, what's important is you come back. It doesn't matter if you become penjual tukang bakso.
Oh, really?
Or tukang sate. I forgot the specific food, but pedagang kaki lima.
So
yang penting balik gitu.
I see.
And my friend was very flabbergasted because he was like, he was going out to study masters and PhD, right? And it's basically like your country saying, we don't care if you come back and there's nothing here for you. Just come back and contribute. And it's not because pedagang kaki lima or bakso seller are not a good job, but it's just that
Condescending.
It's very condescending. It's it's very surprising coming out from that.
I know.
So there's that, and I think this relates to the kabur aja dulu hashtag that are going viral as of now. Like a lot of people don't see any career prospect, like legitimate career prospect, especially scientists here in Indonesia.
Okay. To your friend, I'm really, really sorry. I didn't know that there was someone in the briefing saying that. If your friend is watching this, I apologize on behalf of LPDP because it's not supposed to be that way. We realize that not all. What's the word? Let me try to formulate better. We need to humbly accept our conditions at the moment in Indonesia. That the government cannot guarantee. This is the word. Cannot guarantee that the jobs are available for all returnees. I know I hope it's not depressing, but I'm trying to tell you the truth. The government cannot guarantee that. From my observation, those who graduated masters or PhDs in social science, humanities, economics, policies, and in that area, I think they are easier to find jobs. It's easier for them. It's easier for them to find jobs. They can join multilateral development banks. They can join development partners. They can join UN agencies. They can even work with the government or for the government in PMOs, project management offices. Some of them even join the government directly as civil service, and so on and so on. Okay, but I do notice that for STEM graduates, science, technology, engineering, and maths, it's not always easy. And I think maybe your friend, if you have a friend in that area, say, for example, molecular biology, when they return to Indonesia, we do not always have places for them. Apart from you join your university in the research lab, or you join PRI, public research institutions, or you join big companies whose R&D is quite enough to accommodate you, or you join BRIN, the National Research and Innovation Agency. But apart from that, no. So I can understand this frustration. Me personally, another title of mine, Abi, I used to be member of Indonesian Young Academy of Science. But because I turned old, not young anymore, now I joined the Indonesian Academy of Science, IB, Akademi Ilmu Pengetahuan Indonesia. And one of our concerns is, on the one hand, the government keep talking about the needs for STEM, right? Even Prabowo himself. On the other, the job market for STEM graduates
is so sad.
Exactly. So I think, and that's why in LPDP as well, when you hold or when you complete your study as masters or as PhD students, and then you are offered a position there as postdoc, for example, we will let them continue that. Even if you get internship in research center after you get your PhD, LPDP will gladly consider. The point is, you need to communicate. But yes, we can. But again, Abby, so I understand the frustration. You know, what happened with this brain drain? It is massive.
Do we have a
brain drain
massive
already?
Brain drain? Do you think?
I do not think so. No. Not yet. I mean, if you compare it to India or China, no, not yet. But I'm not saying not yet, because I'm not expecting that. To happen. But what we have now, if I reflect this kabur aja dulu movement, escape first, it is an expression of a frustration. When you work abroad, your motivation mostly is driven by you want to have a better life. Right?
Yeah, of course.
Economic condition, social condition. But kabur aja dulu, the nuance is more than just economics. It is also dissatisfaction with the political system. It is dissatisfaction with your society. The so-called social fabric is destroyed. Even I do not feel safe anymore among my friends because everyone is trying to grab from you. So I think, and everything is, I think, culminated in a situation in which you thought you elect your government, the elected officials, I mean, through the election. On the one hand, the survey says that everyone supports, everyone approves this, but you do not see an improvement in the quality of life, in the improvement of public service delivery. Even some of the government policies hit you. You suffer from that. So I'm seeing this kabur aja dulu movement as a wake-up call for the government, actually. That this is a sign, serious sign from the young people, Indonesian youth, about the situation.
But are they waking up though?
I don't know. Let's make sure that they wake up. Yeah. So this is my take.
Yeah, and I think. So do you?
Suddenly you lost words.
No. Because this is it's not a right or wrong. It's not a simple issue, right?
Yeah.
There's a lot of things that goes into it, like, and you said a lot of things that I feel like we could have followed up with. Like, for example, yeah, you're right. Like, it's very ironic that you mentioned that STEM is the sector that is very difficult for you to get a decent job or even a job period, right? Even if there is a job opportunity, from what I hear from my friends who are in STEM, is that the pay is very low, the scientific culture and ecosystem is very toxic. Like there's a lot of seniority in the institution itself, where it's not about who has the best idea, but who's the most senior, and then the credit system, and then not to mention like professors taking credits for their students' work and things like that. So it's just like there's a lot of things that are not optimal for young researcher to actually do their job. And what's ironic is that, like you mentioned, I feel like Indonesia, our country, we need STEM to progress. That is the sector that needs to flourish in order for us to do more R&D, to produce more technology or things to improve our economy, GDP, and things like that. But there's that disconnect. Right?
I agree. And I have to say that this is the problem of, if I may say, overall national planning, setting up our national priorities. If you follow closely the government's, I would say, obsession to grow by 8%, it is not supported by, my term, derivative policies, kebijakan turunan. If you want to achieve 8%, for example, you need to make sure that the HCD, human capital development, is the priority. It means health, education, social protection. You need to make sure that equal access to education, equal and free, it should be, access to education, to health. There is no way you can have quality human resources without good education,
health, and the ecosystem, incentive system, everything.
So that's why I prefer using the word obsession rather than aspiration, because achieving 8% of growth would require you to really think, I would say, fundamentally. If you ask me, with all my knowledge, with all my understanding about the policy in Indonesia, everything, I do not think it will be achieved until the end of this government, this current administration. No. Abby, see this way, okay? GDP, there are 5 factors that affect GDP. One is the so-called consumption, C. Then government spending, G. And then investment, I. And then export, X. You put all in the bracket, minus import, M. You need to have the first 4 factors going up.
Right.
Consumption, government spending, investment, export. And get the import as low as possible so that you can get this GDP, right? What happens at the moment is that because of the policy, you wouldn't spend, you wouldn't consume. Saving money is good for you, for citizens, but it's bad for the economy. It's bad for the government, right? Government spending, you see the issue of corruption, right? Investment. Investors are not coming to Indonesia because they're
scared. It's uncertain.
Exactly. Regulation and so forth. You know. Export. Our export at the moment depends still on the commodities. Low added value. The import, on the other hand, we increase our import. We will import 300,000 ton of milk because that's the number, or 3 million thousand of milk, 3 million tons of milk because that's the deficit. We are importing utensils and so on and so forth. Even importing cars because of the Maung national car, right? The
electric cars?
No. Oh. You remember the Maung car that was used by Pak Prabowo during the inauguration? Okay. And actually the chassis, the frame is actually imported from Korea because of the Korean cars.
Okay.
Anyway, basically what I'm saying is that...
No, the calculation doesn't make sense.
No. So you will hear maybe next month in March, next week or next month. In March, you will hear the announcement from National Statistics about the economic growth last year, which I guess will not be more than 5%. That happens, the road is just getting longer to achieve that 8%. So, sorry, I'm not trying to be depressing you here, no. But
I think we need to be able to talk about these things, to be real about it, and to say it and to call it as it is. So thank you for your honesty as somebody who has been in and out of the system.
Yep.
I think we can end the conversation here.
But do not lose hope, Abby.
Okay.
Do not lose hope. I mean,
sure, end it here. So why should we not lose hope? Yeah.
I think if you talk about the direction of where we are developing the countries, or the country Indonesia, where we are taking the country into, I think we are quite okay in terms of the directions.
The general direction?
General directions of our development. That, I think, is okay. But we are not determined enough to accelerate. Sometimes, as you mentioned, policies are contradictory, right? We tried, for example, trying to make sure that the democracy goes along with the economic development, but then we kill our own democracy, for example.
What direction are we heading towards?
I think, Abi, the reform in 1998 gave us mandates about the direction of the country in the future. We want to develop. There is no mandate to have economic growth that high, no?
Okay.
We want our economy to grow, certainly, but we want it to grow, inclusively, sustainably. That's the mandate. We should be going there. But I think the way the government is doing now, well, there are some backsliding here and there, but I'm hopeful, especially with this, I would say, your friends, young generation, I would say, my own students, you dare enough to say what's wrong with the country. You go to the street, 22nd of August, even before that, during the Undang-Undang Cipta Kerja, at that time, even a few days ago, Indonesia Gelap. To me, that is hopeful that the young people of this country realize what's wrong and try to voice it. So,
okay. Thank you so much, Wasian, for talking and taking your time here.
Thank you.
And thank you for those of you who are watching. I'll see you in our next episode. Bye-bye.